She has the ability to make people feel this way because she is using her God-given talent. She is using her creativity. She is delivering with pure intentions. She's careful with who she surrounds herself with. That's what's being projected when she's doing what she does. Hey friends, it's your girl Tiff, and you're listening to That's Real, a podcast where we learn and discover more about ourselves through stories, life lessons, experiences. So if you hear something that resonates with you and makes you say, that's real, please share with a friend, family member on Instagram and tag me at It's Tiffanie Davis. And also you can listen or watch this podcast. So it is available on my YouTube channel, or if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, you can show me some love by leaving a 5-star rating and review. I am so happy that you're here. Thanks so much for tuning in, and let's dive into this episode. Hey friends, hey, and welcome back to the pod. I am so excited to dive into today's episode that's all about Renaissance. For those of you guys who have seen the film and seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. I am so excited to dive into this episode about Beyonce's Renaissance film. Like, first and foremost, the word Renaissance, rebirth, a new beginning. And it's so crazy because I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch my video about starting over in your 30s. And it's more so just about like the different stages you go through when you're going through a major life change or a major transition. And I kind of talk through how, first there's the purging phase where you're letting go of what's no longer serving you. And then after that, there's a realignment phase where it's like you're figuring out what's aligned for you now in your life. And then after that realignment phase, there's the rebirth phase, which is definitely the phase that I feel like I'm in right now. And that's kind of what I was explaining in the video. So shameless plug, go watch that video if you haven't already. But I just kind of walk through all of those phases. And it's so interesting. Like when she came out with the Renaissance, I feel like a lot of us were going through this rebirth of sorts, this starting over, just stepping into a new beginning. And I'm always just like, how does she do it? How does she know? How does she know? Or maybe it's just she's so aligned with what she's creating that it ends up being aligned with all of us. And honestly, now that I think about it, this is something that I've been learning a lot through just working with my osteopath when it comes to, mind, body, soul, and like trusting your intuition and setting intentions and moving towards what's highest aligned for you, is that when you are truly in alignment with yourself and doing something that's highest aligned for you, it's not only just highest aligned for you, but it's highest aligned for all. And I feel like with Beyonce, from what I've seen, and obviously I'm a huge fan, I almost feel like she's able to truly get into her core and able to do something that is highest aligned for her. And when she's doing what's highest aligned for her, it in turn is highest aligned for all. So maybe it just kind of syncs up very naturally. It's kind of like creating through ease and flow, which I know I talk about a lot. It's like when you're creating through ease and flow, and again, doing something that's highest aligned for you, things just end up falling into place. So sometimes I'm like, maybe it's that, but I just always feel like her songs and her albums are just so on point with what a lot of us are going through. And it's wild, right? Because Renaissance, in the film, she says she had been working on it for 4 years. 4 years, you guys. Like, can you believe? When I heard that, I was literally like, I got to get up and do something with my life. I got to work on a project. I have to do something. Homegirl was working on this for 4 years. But after watching the film, it's like, and again, we probably got just the smallest peek into the behind the scenes of her creating all that she created. But you totally understand why. She walks through just everything that had to happen for this show to be what it was. From building the stage and just every tile of the stage was hand placed. And as I was watching this, and when she was talking about just how many people were involved in this process, I was just kind of like, wow, there's so much energy that went into all that she created. And I think just from, listening to like interviews that she's done in the past and reading articles and all of that, I feel like Beyoncé is definitely someone who is super intentional about who she surrounds herself with and who she lets work for her. And again, this is obviously just my observation and what I think is happening, but I personally think that because she's so intentional about who she works with and whatnot, it's what's allowed her to create such a masterpiece. And it's not even just how it looks. I think it's also about like the energy and the feeling that you get from watching what she does. She's kind of creating this like super safe space and this super powerful energy for her to then radiate to her audience and whoever's like watching her show or watching the film. That's truly what I think. Because even in the film, she just talks about how, again, like there were people who put the stage together like tile by tile. That's them pouring their energy into this creation. And then, of course, there were the choreographers, there were the stylists. There were so many people involved with bringing this show to life. As she was talking about all of this, and honestly, even now that I'm like really thinking about it, I honestly feel like I'm still processing that film. It just really makes me want to be super intentional about who I surround myself with, who I work with, because I don't know, I just truly think that everything's an energy exchange. And if you're surrounded by weird energy or working with energy that doesn't feel right, then I feel like that's what's pouring into your creation. So yeah, I do feel like Beyoncé is super, super particular about that type of stuff. And because of that, she's able to create all that she's able to create. And obviously over and above that, there's her God-given talent. I mean, she truly is a creative. She truly is. And I mean, obviously just like watching her performances over the years and seeing what she's able to create says a lot to that statement. But this film, I think, just blew it out the water. Like Homegirl was involved in every single detail. And oh my gosh, I have chills just thinking about this one interview that I saw of hers. I honestly can't remember who the interview was for. I honestly can't remember, but in the interview, she says that every like major performance that she's done, she's visualized it before. Like she was given the vision for that performance, which is why as she's like developing shows with other people, she knows in her mind what's right and what's wrong because she's seen it already. When she ever said that, I was shook. Like I was shooketh. But I will say, as I was watching the Renaissance film, I was shook by the visions I was getting about my life and what I could create. I honestly think it's just, there's something about being in the presence of a true creative and being in the presence of someone who's just able to express themselves creatively and also bring a certain energy with them that allows others to feel that energy and do what they need to do for themselves with that energy, if that makes sense. I hope this is making sense. It's just this super powerful energy exchange. And it's actually something she says in the film. And I cannot remember word for word what she says, so I hope I'm sharing this correctly. But she says something about like when she's on stage, there's this certain energy that she has. And it's like she's giving this energy to her audience and then her audience is giving that back to her. And it's just this powerful energy exchange that allows her to kind of like do all that she does. She says something like that. So I'm really sorry if I'm like messing up that quote, but that's how I took it. And I was like, wow, like to be able to have that type of effect on people where you are literally just pouring your intention and pouring your creativity into what you're doing in a way that it's serving other people in the way that it serves people, like mind blown. It's just so powerful. It really is. I think it just goes above and beyond just like what we see physically. It's truly about how she makes people feel. And honestly, this isn't even coming just from like what I was feeling, just from actually going to the show in person and watching the film. But even just like, you know, in the film, she highlights a lot of the audience and just seeing them get so emotional. And I don't even think it's just like a fan thing, like an I'm obsessed with Beyoncé thing. I genuinely think she has the ability to make people feel this way because she is using her God-given talent. She is using her creativity. She is delivering with pure intentions. She's careful with who she surrounds herself with. And the energy is pure and clean. And that's what's being projected when she's doing what she does. Oh my God. I'm like literally getting emotional just sharing this with you guys. I really am, because wow, it's just the ability for someone to be able to do that is just wow. Like it literally just goes beyond the music. Like it's just a feeling that I don't even know if I'm explaining correctly, but oof, when I tell you this film gave me all the feels. And there's even a point in the film where she talks about how like she hasn't had a day off in 44 days. I was like, what am I doing with my life? If Beyoncé hasn't had a day off in 44 days, what am I doing? It just made me want to change my life in some way and just run towards things that could better serve me and just run towards what I know I can create in this lifetime. It was truly a magical experience, just being able to, one, just see the show again, but also see the behind the scenes of all that went into it. Oof, so much talent, so much Black talent, like so many Black creatives showed up and showed out. People who, oh my God, I just have, I'm sorry guys, I literally have full body chills right now. It just truly highlighted Black creativity, and that's something that I loved about it too. We are a force to be reckoned with. We truly are. And just people who were so talented in so many different ways. Like there were the choreographers, there was, oh my God, the guy that I love. Oh, I hate that I keep forgetting his name. Hold on one second. Let me look it up. But the guy who's like Renaissance. And I actually saw in the film a stylist who I love, Shiona Turini. OMG. I have been obsessed with her for years. I think she actually styled Lemonade a bit. I think she's worked with Beyoncé a lot, but she was actually in the film. And I also love how she just highlighted the strength of women. Like I love that she had someone who was pregnant on stage with her. Like we can do so much as women. Homegirl was pregnant on stage performing with Beyoncé. Like Beyoncé really is that girl, that bee. She really is. And even with that said, even with her being at the top of her game, it was so interesting to hear that she still goes through a lot. Like she still has to fight the good fight of just being a Black woman in this world. Like there's this one quote that I had to write down because I was like, I don't want to forget this. And I really wanted to share with you guys. But she says in the film, I feel like being a Black woman, the way people communicate with me is different. Everything is a fight. It's almost like a battle against your will. And when she said that in the film, I was like, wow, to be at the top of your game and to still feel this way as a Black woman, there is so much work to be done in this world. And honestly, this quote really stuck with me. And even later, as I was processing the film, it was kind of like every moment in my life where I felt this way started rushing back to me. Like there have just been so many situations where I've felt like the way people communicate with me is just off, or the way that it feels like a struggle or a fight to get people to see that my point is actually the correct point. And I say that because there's a part in the video where someone is talking to her. I think it had something to do with the stage or the setup. And she's kind of like, oh, well, I want it this way. And they're kind of like, well, we can't do it this way. And she's like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah. And she's like, well, I looked it up and it says that we actually can. I'm not saying like word for word what she said in the film because I honestly can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a situation like that. And I was like, girl, there have been so many times where that has been my reality, where I know in my gut I'm right about something. And there are so many people around me telling me that I'm not. And what I loved about all of this too, and like in her saying that and her ending on like, this bee just won't give up, was a message for us to not give up. Like, keep fighting for what you know is right. And I could truly relate to just how frustrating and how exhausting that can be when people are doubting you. People are doubting that you know the right thing to do or the right way to go about it. I could totally relate to that. And it is frustrating and it is draining. And I've just gone through that so many times in my life. And that's why I just really encourage all of you, and especially us as Black women, to share our stories, for fight for what we know is right, to not back down when people are doubting us and telling us that we're not doing it the right way. Because if we don't continue to fight for it, the cycle is never going to end. And I don't know, it really just made me think about, even the times, especially in my 20s, where I hadn't really found my voice yet and I didn't feel comfortable speaking up for myself. The amount of stress and anxiety I took on because I thought what other people were telling me about myself and what I was doing was true. And at a time where I wasn't yet comfortable with trusting myself and trusting my intuition, there was a point in my life where I trusted other people more than I trusted myself. And it's like, I just want to give younger Tiff a hug. Like, no, it wasn't you. It was them. And I feel like, unfortunately, it's just what a lot of us go through. And when Beyoncé shined light on that and she said that she was that she was going through that too, I was like, now wait a second. And it just really made me want to continue to stand up for myself and not settle and push for what I know is right. Like, Beyonce's still going through it, guys. And another thing that she said, and this was actually more so when she was talking about just Blue wanting to get on stage and perform with her. So she said, all the things I had to go through and the obstacles I had to overcome prepared me. And then she said, and she hasn't seen that struggle, talking about Blue. But just when she talked about, her having to go through certain obstacles to prepare her for who she is now, oof, that also hit me hard. Because, and let me know if you guys can relate to this, there are just so many things that I've gone through in life where I know I went through it to prepare me for who I am ultimately going to become. Like, there are just so many lessons where as I'm going through it, I'm like, I know I'm going through this because when I reach that point in my career that I know I'm going to reach, I'm going to need to have the ability to navigate it in a certain way. And now that I've been through it, I know how to go about it. Let me know if you guys have experienced that, because there are so many things that I'm going through, even right now, where I'm like, I know this is preparing me for what future Tiff is about to become. And then the last quote that I'm going to share with you from her is when she says, I am who I am. Either you take me or you don't. I spent so much time as a people pleaser, and finally, I don't give an F. I was like, Beyonce, you better go ahead. But it's true. It's like, either you like me or you don't. My energy isn't for everyone, and other people's energy isn't for me. That's fine. But I'm going to vibe with the people who are aligned for me. And I'm going to vibe with the people who want what I bring to the table and want what I have to give. That was another really good one. But yeah, there were just so many powerful messages in this film. So I would highly recommend going to see this film if you haven't already. Even if you're not a huge fan of Beyoncé, if you're just a truly creative person, please go watch this film, because just getting the behind the scenes of her process, the talent, the creativity, all of that was so inspiring. And over and above that too, like, it was a good time. Like, I'm so grateful that I went. So my friends and I went to the Grove, and it was literally like we were reliving the concert all over again, because people were dancing, people were standing up, people were clapping, people were singing along. And I just love that. Like, I just loved the energy of the theater that we were in. So I'm telling you, don't wait for it to come out on a streaming service or whatever. Go see it in theaters, because there's something about just like being in the theater. Well, for me anyways, there's something about just like being in the theater, being amongst like other fans and like other people who are really into it, and just like singing along and doing all the things. Like, it literally felt like I was at the concert all over again. So if you want that experience, go see the film. And another thing that crossed my mind, and this is something that I thought about a lot, especially after I saw the show in person, was like, are we all capable of being like the Beyoncé of what we're supposed to do in this lifetime? Are we all capable of being at the top of our game and being able to express ourselves and flow in the way that Beyoncé flows in what she's doing and in her craft. I genuinely think we are capable, but I think in order to reach that level, it's about us, again, kind of like what I was talking about earlier. I think it's about us truly being in alignment with ourselves and in our core and trusting our craft and our talent and what we were sent here to do. I think that the more we can lean into that, the more we're just able to express ourselves in the way that we're supposed to. I hope that that makes sense. That's truly something that I'm trying to do. It's like I'm really trying to tap into more of just, what do I feel naturally called to doing? What do I feel in my heart is what I'm supposed to be doing versus what I quote unquote need to be doing? Tap into those things that feel natural, that feel fun, that feel creative, that feel like I'm sharing like my God-given talent. Like I'm really trying to tap more into those things. And some of you guys might be wondering, like, how do you know what that is? And for me, I feel like it's just about finding what feels good. And honestly, I don't have all of the answers. I feel like in so many ways, I'm still kind of trying to figure that out for myself. But I do think it starts with following in your gut what you know or feel called to doing. And actually, this like master intuitive who I sometimes talk to shared with me is, again, like follow what you know for sure. Follow what you know is right and true for you, even if you can't explain it. And for me, it's like I see it, for example, when I'm making my YouTube videos. I just love to create. I love to be on camera. It's fun for me. And that's something I want to continue to do. But at the same time, I feel like it could evolve into something else. I think that's another thing too. I think that sometimes our gifts and talents, maybe they're not something that we're meant to do forever, but it can point us in the right direction to what we're supposed to be doing. For example, I remember in college when I was super, super into fashion, and it's something that I still am into today, but in college, it was like my everything. I knew all of the Black designers, all of the Black editors. It's actually how I found out about Shiona Turini, but I trusted that and I followed it. And even though everyone wanted me to be an accountant, I was like, no, I'm a little bit more creative. I want to get into fashion. And I remember I was like so into styling at the time, and I found this image consultant, the stylist in Washington, D.C., and I connected with her, became her intern, and it was because of something she shared with me that I went off to Paris to get my MBA years later. It's like you never know what following a certain path might lead to. I do think that it truly starts with following your gut and leaning into what you know is right for you. And trust me, I know it's not always easy just like jumping into that thing that you feel like you really want to do. But if you can find a way to do it, even if it's on the side, I don't know. I just feel like there are just so many opportunities and blessings that could come out of it. At least that's how I feel. And that's why it's like, I'm really trying hard now. I mean, you know, I was really going through a huge transition. So it was kind of like off YouTube for a while. But now that I feel a lot more grounded and settled, it's like I'm really trying to dive back into it. And even just creating this podcast felt really right for me. But let me know if you guys can relate to any of this. But it's, for some reason, it's truly how I feel that the more you can follow what your gut is telling you to do, the more you can follow what truly feels right for you. Not only will you just be a happier person, have more joy in your life because you're actually doing something that you love to do, you'll have more opportunities, more success, more freedom in the long run. Or at least that's what I gathered from all that Beyoncé has showed me over the years, and especially with this film. And she even says something like when she gets on stage, like she's not responsible for that person. Like it's literally just her lighting up inside and following what feels right and doing her thing, being in that groove. And that's what I want for myself. And that's what I want for all of you, to find that thing where you're just in the flow of your life force. And I know that we all have it. I know that every single one of us has it. I think it's truly just about tapping into it. And also another thing to keep in mind is that when you're in that flow, it allows you to share that with others too. And I actually shared this quote in a YouTube video too, but there's this quote that says, "There's someone out there waiting for you to do your thing so that they can do theirs." So there's someone out there waiting for you to do what you were truly called here to do, so that they can do what they were sent here to do. How cool is that? And that's why, again, like I truly believe what's highest aligned for you is highest aligned for all. So if you can tap into that thing that you were sent here to do, imagine how many people you could help and serve, while in turn helping yourself too. Again, it's that energy exchange that Beyoncé was talking about in the film. And honestly, the intention that I have, and feel free to take this intention and use it for yourself too, is that, and especially, you know, with my craft and all that I'm creating, is, you know, I set the intention that I get to use my God-given gifts and talents to help and serve other people in a way that's highest aligned for all, and also in a way that creates abundance for myself, for them, and for all. But for me, it just helps me kind of ground myself and kind of stay in the flow of all that I'm doing and creating. So I hope that helps. Wow. I definitely feel like I went on a tangent in this episode, but there was just a lot to share because I was having all the feels watching that concert. I really was. And again, it's not just because I'm a Beyoncé fan, which I obviously am. It was truly because I was in the presence of a truly creative spirit who was sharing their God-given gifts and talents in a way that gave me a certain energy and a certain flow. And oof, wow, it was powerful. It really was. So with that said, please go watch the film if you haven't already. But yeah, just really wanted to dive into a lot of learnings and a lot of inspiration and just a lot of wisdom that came through from watching that film. And I also would really love to know if you guys have watched it, how you guys felt, and if you picked up on anything that I'm sharing, or if you picked up on something different. I really would love to hear. But that's all from me, guys. Just wanted to share that with you. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. Thanks as always for listening and watching if you're watching this on YouTube, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.